What's up guys, it's Frogfordog. Do you guys ever look at a modern smartphone and just think, man, these things have just gotten absolutely ginormous. They're absolutely impossible to use one-handed, which I'd be able to show if this wasn't just a phone case. Wait a second. Let me just downgrade the image quality for a second. Aha! Here it is. This is my main smartphone, the Google Pixel 8 Pro. Here's what it looks like without its case on. It looks very sleek. I actually really like this design. Now, I myself am not a tall guy. I'm actually pretty small. You can see just how comically small this phone makes my hands look. So, normal resting phone position, I try to reach up, and that's about as much as I can reach without reshuffling. About here. You can kind of see the arc of my thumb's movement here. So in order to really use this phone, I kind of have to like shift my position all the way up like that and then swipe down. Using the gestures can be a bit of a strain on the thumb, but it's honestly not too bad. But really, just trying to get anything in this top corner just kind of results in me having to shift my phone like this. It's really not entirely ergonomic. But believe it or not, phones used to actually be smaller back in the day. How much smaller, I hear you cry? Well, about this much smaller. Oh my god, it looks so comical when put next to my Pixel. This is an iPhone 4 and you can just see how tiny it is in comparison to my main phone. Using this, you can tell it was designed first and foremost for reachability, you know, tapping every single corner easily without having to change position. While on here, good luck trying to do that. Like, yeah, I struggle sometimes with this phone, but I mean, it's not too bad. Anyways, let's switch the camera quality back because this is not sounding good. Ah, much better. Now, here's the thing. Phones, and we're going to talk about iPhones in this case, they started off small, and then they got bigger, and then they got bigger again. And then, guess what happened next? If you predicted that they went smaller, you'd be wrong, because they went bigger again. Holy moly. In a few short years, the iPhone turned from this into something like this. And then of course the screens on them got even bigger with the Pro Max iPhones, but I straight up don't have any of those, so just use your imagination. While the entire smartphone industry was moving to make these damn things bigger and bigger, Apple did something quite interesting with the launch of the iPhone 12 series. Well, sure, they still had their iPhone 12 Pro Max, which is huge and massive, well, it was like the same size as the 11, maybe a little bit thicker. They decided to try something out, and that was to introduce a new phone in the middle of these sizes. That phone being the mini iPhone. As you can see, that phone, this one in particular being an iPhone 13 mini, which is almost identical to the iPhone 12 mini, pretty much slots right in the middle in terms of the size between an iPhone 5/SE and an iPhone 6 to 8 to SE 3rd gen. They're still using this design today. That's crazy. It's like a 10-year-old design. Apple did this in a way that was actually really compelling because instead of making a phone that felt cramped, they made a phone that felt compact. Things changed between the iPhone 5 and the iPhone 12. As you can see, the bezels are a lot smaller, which basically allowed for a much larger screen in a smaller footprint. What you essentially got was the screen of an iPhone 7 in the size of an iPhone SE/5. So I'm not going to keep doing this for every single time. It's not even a 7, it's an iPhone 6S. I honestly think that this strikes a near perfect middle ground between the two. This phone feels really tiny, but honestly not that cramped at all. Especially if you turn the scaling down, you can pretty much get as much content as a normal iPhone onto this screen if you've got good eyesight. If you're someone who needs the text to be larger, and I've seen this before where people with iPhone SEs have insanely large text scaling, a lot of stuff gets cut off and it's probably not the best option for someone like that. Flagship small phones at the time were honestly kind of a dying breed. When these itty bitty mini little iPhones came out, small phones were honestly kind of a dying breed at the time. Sure, they still existed, but they were either like really cheap models or they sacrificed too much to get the size. The iPhone 12 mini, and even more so the iPhone 13 mini, really didn't compromise too much to get their small form factors. They still had the same processor as the higher end iPhones of their year. The cameras were also the same as well, being improved on the iPhone 13 mini. They both have really good screens on them. They both support these really bright, vivid OLED screens. Now, not bright in modern regards, but still really good for their time. Oh, something else really funny is that the phones keep wanting to sync up with each other every time I put them near. So, that's kind of funny. I'll talk more about this in a moment, but the sound for this is absolutely hilarious. The bloop sound is great. Watch, if I put them down next to each other. Yeah, well that one tried, but this one didn't get it. Yeah, it kind of makes it hard to film when, like, I just have them sitting next to each other and they're just gonna keep doing this until the end of time. The one downside really for these phones is the fact that their battery life isn't the best, but it's still, like, not awful. Well, it's not really that good with the 12. For the 13 mini, it's actually not too bad. And also for the fact that you just see less content on these screens. Other than those two compromises, these are like pretty much no compromise compact phones, which is something you don't see anymore. Actually, the Asus Zenfone recently got replaced, meaning it was the last no compromises compact phone on the market, which is now gone, so rip small phones! And that kind of leads me into my next point. If these things were so great, how come we only have the 12 and 13 mini? Where's the 14 and 15 mini? Well, as great as these phones were, they just did not sell. As it turns out, the phone market has kind of spoken, and people just want bigger phones with bigger batteries so they can watch more stuff on it. Small phones really didn't sell well. The 13 mini sold especially poorly. So yeah, that's kind of what killed these things off. The fact that apparently no one wanted them. Plenty of people did, but they were kind of a vocal minority. And that's kind of led these phones to kind of being seen as like cult classics in the iPhone lineup. They've got their devout fans, but they weren't really popular, meaning they're probably going to be a little bit rare. Which, by the way, I have a little pro tip for collectors out there. See, the iPhone 13 mini didn't sell well, and in the middle of the iPhone 13 lineup, they introduced green iPhones for all of the models. So, the simple fact that they were introduced as a mid-cycle refresh means that there are just vastly less green iPhone 13s than any other color. So, if you get the rarest iPhone 13, which is the 13 mini, which is the rarest of the mini iPhones, and you get it in that exclusive green color, that phone, I reckon, is gonna be pretty rare in the future, so if you're someone with a bit of a disposable income, maybe grab that one if you want a future collectible. Just kind of my little tip. Or maybe I'm wrong and no one cares, but I mean honestly, people trying to sell first gen iPod touches for stupid money and it's just not worth that much, so anything with an Apple logo people buy. Let's compare the iPhone 12/13 mini to Apple's previous attempt at a small phone, the first gen iPhone SE, which is pretty much just an iPhone 5S with a new chip shoved in it. The first gen iPhone SE features the classic home button with all your classic gestures that came with it, like double tap and tap. I don't know where I was going with that. Where the iPhone 13 mini instead opts to use gestures, which I honestly prefer. The home button's still nice, sometimes I kinda like having it, but honestly gestures can be pretty fast too, especially if you like swipe between apps like this. I think that's probably the most incredible feature out of all of it. I do believe you can kinda do it on the large iPhones with 3D touch, but it never felt good. So yeah, honestly I think the gestures introduced with the iPhone 10, they just feel great, and I vastly prefer it compared to just like tapping. It's a lot faster too. What I come to find though is that on the iPhone SE, especially with widgets, the UI starts becoming quite a bit cramped on this tiny little phone. Like, it's not unusable or anything, but you can really tell that this screen was severely holding back iOS for a bit. It's not unusable or anything, it's just, you know, a little bit goofy. A lot of UIs, like for example the settings app, just traditional legacy UIs, they look fine because, you know, they were designed for the iPhone 2G and just slowly refined over time. But then you get to stuff like the widgets and just sort of the newer UI elements and it kind of starts falling apart just a little bit. Like I said, not unusable, just a little bit cramped. What I feel on the iPhone 12/13 mini I don't think anything really feels compromised on here. I actually think this is a fantastic size. And these phones really do feel like throwbacks to the iPhone 5 era of design. Like, they've got the same squared off edges, even down to where the antenna bands are. The lock switch and, well, the buttons are not the same. They're still in pretty much the same positions. Like, especially that lock switch. That lock switch is eerily similar. Fortunately, there is no lock button on the top because that would have sucked. Same antenna positions on the right side, but you've got a long ass power button, which feels great. I like this power button, but there's your SIM card reader. Whereas on the 13/12 mini, the SIM card reader's on the left side. On the bottom, they both have lightning, and the iPhone SE has got a headphone jack on it. You can see here the basic single camera on the back, while the iPhone 13 mini has this big ass camera bump on the back. And it actually grew quite a bit between the iPhone 12 and 13 mini, so much so that they did this diagonal design to fit the larger sensor in. I originally thought that the diagonal design looked absolutely hideous when the iPhone 13 was first announced, but I'm honestly used to it now. I also thought that the camera stove on the iPhone 11 looked terrible, but like, I'm very much used to it now. Now you guys may be thinking, well, between the iPhone 12 and 13 mini, which one's the better phone? Well, the 13 mini obviously, because it's the newer, better version of it. But if you had to buy one, is it better to save a bit of money or spend a little bit more money? Let's break that down. A little bit of a spoiler alert, these phones are extraordinarily similar. So you're not really going to miss out on anything huge going with one or the other. Like, quite frankly, they're kind of interchangeable as the same phone. But you'll notice improvements in 3 key areas. 1. The battery life. Let's go to Safari on the minis. Let's do iPhone. That is not what I wanted to swipe type. I wanted to swipe type iPhone. Yes, I want a joint. Battery. Hey, you both got it. Oh my god, please stop. Oh my god. Okay, so yeah, bit of a funny. I put the 2 phones together and they swapped their web pages because they airdropped to each other. Okay, let's swap them back. So yeah, as you can see on the iPhone 12 mini, you have a 2227 mAh battery, while on the 13 mini, you get an extra 200 mAh. And really, at that battery size, any improvement's a good improvement. What are you two doing? And really, with a battery that small, any kind of an improvement is a good improvement. I'll get up some graphs of the battery life because I can't be stuffed to test them, and there you go, that's what it's like. Of course, the cameras year over year have a bit of an improvement, so the 13 mini's camera is obviously better than the 12 minis. But don't take my word for it, let's do some camera tests to see just how much better it is. And yeah, those were the results. I don't know how different it was. I'm going to assume not that much different, but I haven't taken the photos yet. Number 3, the notch. The iPhone 13 has a smaller notch than the iPhone 12. Stop airdropping with each other! My god, you guys. Put next to each other, you can see just how much smaller it is on the iPhone 13 mini. And again, on a screen this small, every bit of extra pixel counts. The extra real estate you get on the 13 mini really feels so much better, because on the 12 Pro Max and the 13 Pro Max it's really not that much of a difference, but on a small screen you can just see how much screen you're getting back. It's actually a vast improvement. And even just down to like the information cluster up here, you can see how cluttered it is on the iPhone 12, while on the iPhone 13 mini it's a lot more spaced out. There's actually a bit of room there. So all the information on the top of the screen is actually a lot bigger and easier to read as well. It's almost like it's more designed for the 13 mini. While the 12 mini, yeah, it's really struggling. Look how close that SOS text gets to the edge. Much better. And again, just a little bit of a comparison. You can see the size difference here. And of course, the iPhone 13 mini has a faster processor in it. I'm going to put up a graph and just kind of say who cares, because you're not going to feel this performance difference at all. But that does mean that you will get more iOS updates on this thing. Possibly, maybe. We don't know. Apple might kill these things both off of the same year, which is likely. They could do it. They didn't sell very well, especially the 13 mini. So who knows how many years of iOS support these things will get. Maybe Apple will just abandon them. But I mean, the iPhone SE got updated for a very long time, but this sold better. Other than that, these two phones are pretty much identical, with the 13 just being a slight improvement compared to the 12 mini. You're not really missing out on anything major. Both phones can be slapped to a MagSafe charger and turned into an alarm clock, which is honestly what I've been using my iPhone 12 mini for, because I don't really know what to do with it. My iPhone 13 mini has pretty much become my AirTag tracking device, so yeah, these mini iPhones really are living the best life at the moment, but that's okay. Now, typically for a tech YouTuber, this part of the video, they would ask the question of, are these phones usable in 2024? Yes, I'm not going to waste your time. Yes, these phones are absolutely 100% usable in 2024. It's such a dumb question. But honestly, speaks to the longevity of iPhones compared to some other phones. I know people who are using Galaxy S10s and S20s, which are about the same age as these, and they're not faring as well as these phones are. Because the S20 isn't getting updates anymore. These phones still have years of updates ahead of them, and from anecdotes, I've heard that the S20s are getting pretty slow, at least from the people I know. And yeah, these things are still very snappy. I actually daily drove this iPhone 12 mini for a bit when I first got it, and I really enjoyed it. I really like the size, just the one downside is that the camera isn't good as my Pixel. And I was using the Pixel 7 Pro at the time, so with the Pixel 8 Pro, yeah, it's an even larger gap. But really, if these phones had a camera as good as my Pixel 8 Pro, and with a slightly better battery life, it'd be kind of a perfect phone. But then I also like the size of the Pixel 8 Pro. I'm kind of weird where I like both the small phone and the supermassive phone. I like both of them. I think there's benefits to both of them, and I like using both. So I guess it's kind of good to maybe just switch between them, I don't know. Oh yeah, that reminds me about something else I didn't like about the 12 mini. The base storage on the iPhone 12 mini is 64 gigs. That is absolutely pathetic. Luckily, the 13 mini bumped that up to 128 gigs. And if you're shopping between the two, that is definitely something to consider. You know what? Besides the notch, that's probably the most noticeable upgrade with the iPhone 13. Double the storage. 64 gigs is just not enough in today's landscape. And that brings me to the modern day. Reviewing these phones is kinda bittersweet because, quite frankly, they're fantastic phones. But after the iPhone 13 mini, Apple would stop making mini iPhones. The 13 mini was replaced with the iPhone 14 Plus, which is the opposite, a 14 but larger, and it's selling a lot better than the 13 and 12 mini ever hoped to. And they've even stopped producing the 13 mini as well, quite recently actually, which means that the smallest iPhone you can buy now is the iPhone SE 3rd gen. And while it is technically a smaller screen, it's a larger footprint than the iPhone 13 mini while also feeling a bit more cramped because of the screen bezels. Quite frankly, it makes me kind of sad that there's no good small flagship phones anymore. Like, it actually baffles me how there isn't a single one anymore. Like, the Asus Zenfone was the last one, at least for now. Maybe a small phone will magically appear. Could happen, actually it likely will happen, and then disappear again. But for now, we're pretty much stuck with these ginormous large phones, which, I mean, putting the 13 mini within, you can see just how absurdly tiny it is. It's adorable! I love the 13 and 12 mini, even if I also like my Pixel 8 Pro. I like the size of both, man. I really didn't get this point across clearly enough in the video, but like, the one-handedness of this phone is insane. I just shift a little bit and I'm just able to reach the top corner. Now it's still a little bit of a jumble, it's not like the iPhone 4Ds, easily reach every corner. For a bit of a size comparison, I so happen to have an iPhone 13 box, and here's what the 13 mini is like compared to it. So yeah, phones. And yeah, that's pretty much it really. Just a video where I talk about the mini iPhones and how cool I think these are. These are honestly really great as modern smartphones. They're still fantastic to this very day, and as niche collector items of a very weird time period where Apple tried this. And they're likely not going to try it again for a very long time. So yeah, my name is... Really guys? Watch, if I dismiss this, are they going to keep doing it again? Oh my god, I have to keep these guys separated. Stop! So yeah, my name is Frogfaduk. You can say however you want, I really don't care. New videos whenever I like. Consider becoming a channel member like all these people on the screen have. You get some awesome perks like exclusive videos, special Discord server roles, and access to the members only Minecraft server. How cool is that? Starts at $1 a month and goes all the way up to $800 a month. If you really want, I might as well offer it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the end of the video. Thanks for watching.